Today it's all about how I do makeup on my very mature over 50, over 60 eyes. That's coming up next. Welcome in, I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, where we talk everything makeup, skincare, and style for the over 50 woman. I'll tell you what, getting used to doing eye makeup on more mature lids took me a long time. It's very different to do makeup on mature lids that are wrinkly and crinkly and a little bit saggy than it is doing eye makeup on taut eyelids. Over the months and years, I've kind of figured out a way to do my eye makeup so that it looks more flattering than how I used to do it. I'll be going over everything I do for the makeup on my eyes step by step today. If you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by. I hope you'll consider subscribing while you're here and make sure you click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if you're interested in more makeup, skincare, style, and more for the over 50 and over 60 woman, stop by prettyover50.com. There's a lot of great information just waiting for you there. Learning how to do eye makeup on my very mature lids took me quite a while. There are so many different tips and techniques that I have stumbled on that I'm going to share today. We're going to jump right into the makeup, and as always, all products that I use today will be listed and linked below, so super easy for you to find. And with that, let's hop into it. I've gone ahead and done my eye makeup on this eye exactly how I used to do it, and I'll tell you what, it cracks me up to look at this. I don't know what world I was living in where I thought this looked good on my mature lids. I think that maybe when I was younger there might have been a time where this looked okay. I certainly don't think it works for my mature lids now. I'm going to go ahead and do this eye how I do my makeup today, and we'll be able to contrast and compare between the two. The very first thing I do when I start on my eye makeup is I apply my eyeshadow primer. I didn't use eyeshadow primer before. I really didn't even understand it or know about it. Now I use it every time I do my eye makeup because it really does hold my eyeshadow in place, and it has the added advantage, at least with this formula. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Eye Primer. It covers up the lines and veining in my lids, which I have now. Didn't used to have those. It's kind of creeped in over the years. If you don't have lines and veining in your lids and you don't feel like you need to cover anything up, then I would recommend the Milani eyeshadow primer. I don't have it right here. I don't know where it is. I'll go ahead and put a picture up here. That eyeshadow primer works really well. It doesn't have the opacity of this one. With this eyeshadow primer, the difficult part is getting a tiny enough amount. This, believe it or not, is enough to do both eyes. I'm only going to be doing one eye, so I'm going to tap it in very gently, and you're going to see how opaque it is as I start to apply it. I really do like the fact that it creates a beautiful light canvas for my lids, that then when I start applying my eyeshadow, it's not mottled or tainted by the underlying veining and discoloration on my eyelids. This particular formula is so opaque and so thick that it does take me a little while to really pat this in and get it to set down. I'll often put it on my lids and then go do something else on my makeup in order for it to dry down, and then I can tap it out and then I'm ready to go. I do move it over to the inside corner of my eye because I generally put a little lighter highlight shadow in there to open up that area and counteract the shadowing I get in there because of the looser nature of my lid. While that eyeshadow primer is drying down, that's generally when I go in and do my brows. The very first thing that I do with my brows is I put a little bit of powder in them because I'm generally sitting down to do my makeup right after I've done my skincare. I usually let my skincare soak in about 25 to 30 minutes, but my eyebrows generally end up with a lot of skincare in them, and it makes it very hard to put on an eyebrow product. What I do is I use my Rimmel Stay Matte Powder. You can see how tatty this thing is. I've had it for a long time. This is such a great powder. It belongs in your makeup collection if you don't have it. It's super cheap and so very good. I have it in the translucent color. I have a particular brush, this brush is Perfusion, that I use just for my eyebrows. So I take that brush and just swirl it around, get some powder on my brush, and I just run that back and forth into my eyebrows in order to soak up that skincare that really creates a problem for my eyebrow products to lay down nicely. So I'll just put that powder all through my brows. Then I take my spoolie and brush it through. Once I have that powder worked through my brows, I go in with my eyebrow pencil. Lately, I've been loving this. This is the Revlon Color Stay Brow Creator. I'm in the color blonde. The way that I start creating my brow line is I begin at the bottom to really define that line. So I'll start at the front of the brow and just work it along that brow line. And as I get towards the end, I'm going to pull that brow straight out because that's going to serve to open my eye up. The way that I used to do it, and you can see it here, is that I brought the tip of my brow down, which really closes off the eye and creates a heavier look. What I do now is I pull that line almost straight out, and you're going to see that that really tends to open up that eye area and make my eye look more lifted. Once I have that bottom line penciled in, then I'll just start filling in the brow itself. The reason I like the Brow Creator so much is that inside there's a brow powder and a little sponge tip right here, and you can actually just work that through the brow very, very quickly to define it and fill in any empty spaces. Then I take my spoolie and brush it on through. What I do with my brows is I like to get the shape defined prior to doing my eyeshadow, so I really know where to place the colors. Once I'm done with my entire makeup look and I'm ready to put on my lipstick, that's when I go back in with a brow pencil and really work on the details, pulling out the tail and the front end at the very end of my makeup routine. Now that I have that brow roughed in, I'm going to go back in and really tap out my eyeshadow primer before I start applying my shadow. Today I'm going to be using the ColourPop Stone Cold Fox palette just because there's so many choices in here. This palette is so fabulous for a neutral look. I love working with it. The first thing that I want to do with my eyeshadow is I want to define the transition area from my lid, crease, and up into the brow. That's going to help push back some of that hooded skin and heavier skin that now folds over my movable lid and create more of a look of a defined crease that's tighter and firmer. For this, I'm going to use my BK Beauty 202 brush, and I'm going to dip it into this light neutral color right here. Tap it off to get the excess off my brush so I don't get a lot of fallout on my face. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to raise my eyebrows. I'm going to keep my eyebrow relaxed because where the skin is when my eyebrow is relaxed is much different than where the skin is when my eyebrows are raised. It didn't used to be that way. It's that way now. What I'm going to do is look straight ahead into my mirror, and I'm going to place my brush right above the crease area on my eye. The reason that I want to do that is that I want to push this hooded area back a little bit by placing this slightly darker color in that area, and that's going to create more of a look of a crease in that area. And you can see if I lifted my eyes, I would have placed my brush right here. Where the shadow needs to be is in that hooded area right above my natural crease. So I'm just going to start working that color in back and forth. It might be a little patchy or a little skippy in the beginning because I'm just now laying down the shadow, but as I continue to work that shadow back and forth, it's going to smooth out and look a lot more cohesive. So I'm just going to work that back and forth, and I'm not going to worry about getting too close to my brow because you're going to see in the finished look there's plenty of space between the transition area and my brow. As I'm placing this initial transition color down, I want to be very aware to not go too far down in the eye area because it really can tend to pull my eye down because I have skin that's hanging down here now that didn't used to be there. I have lots of things that didn't used to be there. You can see on this side I have brought that crease color too far down and it's actually pulling my eye down. What I want to do on this side is to make sure that I don't go beyond this line between the end of my eye here and my brow. In other words, I want to keep my eyeshadow right in this area and not go below it. If you do end up going below it by accident, that's fine. You can simply take your blending sponge when you're done and really just tap it out and clean that area up. However, I try to keep that eyeshadow in that defined area while I'm doing it. It just makes the finished makeup look that much cleaner. So I'm just going to continue to work in that transition color back and forth. And the color you want to choose is going to be just slightly deeper than your skin tone. This is going to create the transition from your intense eye color up into the brow area. And you can see I am stopping right here and not bringing that color down too far, because then I'm going to get that dragging down look that I have over on this side. Now that I have that transition color placed, blending is next. And what I have found with doing eyeshadow on my very mature lids is blending is the secret. Because my eyes are wrinkly and crinkly on their own, the last thing I need is for my eyeshadow not to have a smooth transition all the way up to my brow, because that's only going to make my eyelids look worse. So I make sure that I overblend to really ensure that the color is very smooth. I'm going to go back in with my BK Beauty 201 brush and really just work that color in, making sure that the edges of that shadow are very smooth and subtle as they blend into the eyelid. Now I'm going to pick up my 202 brush again. This is the same brush I used for the transition color. And I'm going to dip it into a little deeper color right here. This is a deeper neutral tone. Tap off the excess, and I have eyeshadow just on the tip of those bristles. What I'm going to do with that brush is I'm going to place it deep into the crease on the outside corner of my eye. One thing you want to keep in mind when you're doing eyeshadow or working with any makeup brush is where you first place it, the most shadow is going to go. Because that brush is loaded up right now, I want to place it on the outside corner of my eye, deep into that crease, and just start working that color from the outside corner in towards the inside corner of my eye. And what this is going to do is deepen up that crease area and give an optical illusion of that crease being deeper, tighter, and firmer on my lid. So I'm going to take that brush and just start tapping that color in. And as I work it towards the inside of my eye, it's just going to get lighter and lighter because I have less product on my brush. I'm going to load up a little bit more product now just on the bristles, and I'm going to bring that down on the outside corner of my movable lid. And that's going to add emphasis to the outside corner of my eye, giving the illusion of a lift. So just working that color deep into the crease and bringing it on the outside third of my movable lid, back and forth. And as I bring it over, I'll have less product on my brush, so it gets lighter as I move in. Now I'm going to go back in with that big fluffy brush again and just blend that out. Really working on the edges of that shadow so that it goes very smoothly into the transition color. Little circles, not moving that color too much. I just really want to blend it in so it's very subtle. And you can see already that the look of the lift on this side compared to this side, there's a big difference there. In addition, because I have kept that shadow in a very confined area, it's really diminishing the look of the fact that that skin is a little bit looser than it used to be. Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to dip it into this shimmer shade right here. You can see how that looks. That's going to go on my movable lid. And I'm going to place it all over the lid up into that point where that darker color has been brought down onto the movable lid. So I'm going to take my finger, and just like my brush, where I place my finger first is going to place the most pigment. So I want to put that right in the center of my eye and start patting it in back and forth. And I want to move that up onto my movable lid almost to the crease, because if I can make my movable lid look a little bit bigger, it makes my eye itself open up. So I'm going to start patting that up almost to that crease area and then down over into the corner. And you can see I'm working it almost to the outside of my eye, but I don't want to cover up that darker area there, because that's really going to help open my eye up and place emphasis in the outside area of my eye. Now that I have that color placed with my finger, I'm going to go back in with the big fluffy brush, and I'm just going to really blend that into the lid and shear it out a little bit. I'm also blending in that top edge into the crease shade. And you can see now on this eye how we have created a deeper looking crease. The movable lid looks a little bit bigger, and we have a very, very smooth transition from color to color. Compare this to this. This looks a lot more subtle and a lot more lifted. Next, I'm going to take a flat brush and I'm going to dip it into this darker shade right here and get product just on the tip of that brush. I'm going to tap it off so there's less fallout onto my face, and where I'm going to place that brush is right on the outside corner of my eye. Now look at where that brush is. It is right at the intersection between the tip of my brow and the corner of my eye. I don't want to get any further down than this intersection right here. So I'm going to place that brush vertically along that outside edge of my eye and down along the lash line about 1/3 of the way in. I'm going to bring it up right into that crease area, down along the movable lid, and right along the lash line. What this is going to do is that dark color is going to create a look of a lift on that outside corner, almost like an eyeliner, but I want it to be a lot softer because my lid is not smooth, so I really can't put eyeliner in that area. However, I do want that lift, so doing it this way allows me to have that lift without needing the detail of eyeliner. So now that I have that placed back in with the big fluffy brush, you can see how important blending is with eyeshadow for mature lids. I'm going to take that brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start blending that in very, very gently. I don't want to move that color. I want to keep it right in that area. I just want to soften it up. You can see how that's created an emphasis towards the outside corner of the eye, making it look more lifted. Now I'm going to take a little detail brush, dip it into this cream kind of eggshell color right here, tap it off, and that's going to go right under my brow just to subtly highlight that area and open up the eye even more. I'm going to take that same color, the eggshell color, tap it off, and place it right at the inside corner of my eye to kind of open up that area and counteract that shadowing that I get there. You also can use a shimmer shade for that if you'd like. Today I'm just going to use a matte. That's it for the eyeshadow. Now we're going to move on to lining the eyes. I like to line my eyes both on the upper lid and tight line. However, it's difficult because that skin is not smooth, so I really had to work with creating emphasis along the lash line without it looking choppy and uneven. For this process, I love my L'Oreal Lay Liner. You guys know that I've been using this for months and months and months and loving it. What I do, and I'm going to try to do this in a way that you guys can really see it, is I'm going to take a tissue, I'm going to hold my eye a little bit taut, take that pencil, And I'm going to start right here. I'm not going to start at the inside corner of my eye. I'm going to start a little bit past where my eyelashes start. And I'm just going to move that liner along my lid really, really close to the lash line. And you can see I have a line there now, but it's very uneven because that skin is not smooth. What do I do now? That's actually really easy. I'm going to take a tiny little angled brush and I'm just going to smudge that out along the lash line. Really focusing on that upper edge of that liner line. And this is just going to smooth that liner into that shadow and create that definition I'm looking for without it needing to be exact. So you can see now that I've smudged that liner out, it looks a lot more natural and a lot more smooth just from blending it in with that little angled brush. Now I'm going to curl my lashes. I'll tell you what, I used inexpensive lash curlers all my life. And when I say inexpensive, I mean maybe $7 or $8. This one is only, I think, in the low 20s or something. This eyelash curler is so good. It is so good, and I can't believe I didn't use a good lash curler all the years I was doing my makeup. The difference in the way this curls my lashes and the comfort level is night and day. So I'm going to place this eyelash curler at the base of my lashes, but not too close to the base so that when I close it, it pulls my lashes. I'm going to just lay it there, and once I have a good placement, I'm going to press down and hold it for about 10 to 15 seconds, maybe more if your lashes are a little bit more stubborn. You can see what a difference it has made in my lashes. The curl that it gives is just extraordinary. Now, one of the things that I do, and this is just personal to me, is that you can notice that my lashes are now curled up. I want them to fan out a little bit to give my eye a little bit more of an open look. So I'm going to take my finger right here towards those in lashes, and just like you curl ribbon when you're wrapping a package, I'm going to pull my lashes along the thumbnail, not pulling it out of my lash line, but just along the lash itself, and really kind of fan that lash out. So instead of going straight up, it's angled out a little bit. So I'm not sure if you can see that now, but you can see the lashes towards the outside edge of my eye are a little bit more angled, and it gives it a little bit more of a fluttery look. Once I have my lashes curled, that's when I go back in and tightline with that same L'Oreal pencil. When you're tightlining, if you've never tightlined before, I know it looks scary, but really once you do it, it's so very easy. The point is not to get the liner so much on the skin, but in between the individual lashes, because what we're looking to do is really define that lash line. So I'm going to take that pencil, I'm going to place it right at the base of my lashes, and I'm just going to work that in right between the lashes and really define that line. I know it looks weird, but it really does a nice job of defining your lashes. So I'm just going to work it back and forth until I feel like I have it really filled in. And again, I am not taking that all the way down to the corner of my eye. I'm stopping a few lashes in from where my lashes start on my lid. The next step is a lash primer, and I cannot believe the difference an eyelash primer makes. I had never used an eyelash primer before. This was suggested to me by my friend Mel C from Mel C's Makeup and Style. She's the one that turned me on to this. I am so grateful to her. This is such a big improvement on my eyelashes. I can't imagine not using a primer anymore. And you know what? I have tried higher end primers. They don't perform any different for me, or at least the ones I've tried just really don't. My opinion now is you really don't need an expensive lash primer. At least that's how it's worked for me. I'll just use my L'Oreal, which is a drugstore price. So you can see mine looks a little bit gummy because I use it a lot. And I'm just going to take that and do a quick coat on my lashes and really get them saturated with that primer. I always like to let that dry down for just a minute or two before I go in with my mascara. Now that that's dried down just a little bit, I'm going to go in with mascara. Lately, I've been using the Benefit Rollerball mascara. I love this. I love it almost as much as I love my Maybelline Sky High mascara. This is drugstore. This is a little more expensive. Both of them work fabulous in my opinion. Today, I'm going to use the Rollerball because I have it open and I want to go ahead and use it up. And the way that I'm going to apply the mascara is I'm going to start at the base of my lashes and I'm going to wiggle the wand up as I go. That's going to help each lash get coated with the mascara. So I'm just going to start in at the base, wiggle a little bit, and bring it all the way to the tips of those lashes because that's going to give me the length. So I want to work the full length of the lash from the base on up to the tip. Wiggling as I go, helping to separate the lashes and coat each lash with mascara. As I get to the outside lashes, I'm going to coat them and pull them out so that I have more of a fluttery look to my lash line. And you can see as I coat them, I'm just pulling them out and down a little bit so that I have a nicer, more fanned out lash line look across the whole eye. And look at what a difference just from using that mascara base and one coat of the mascara. Isn't that amazing? Now I'm going to go in for the second coat of mascara, and what I'm going to do is focus just on the tips of the lashes. In other words, the upper half of the lashes. Because I already have the base established and I have plenty of volume, now I'm just going to work on those ends of the lashes to give me just a little bit more length. Now we have the eyeshadow done, the lining and tight lining, and the mascara. Now you might be wondering, what about your lower lashes? I know, I don't do anything on my lower lashes anymore. You can see that I definitely used to do a lot on my lower lashes. You can see the tight lining and the mascara down there. The reason that I don't put anything underneath my eyes now is because that under eye area is very, very wrinkly and crinkly, and over the course of the day it doesn't improve. Really, it doesn't matter what kind of makeup I use, what kind of primer, my under eye area is just going to get a little bit more creasy looking as the day goes on. It's just the way it is now. So I don't want to draw any attention to that area underneath my eye. I don't put any lining down there. I don't put any mascara. It really is my personal choice. I just think it looks better. If it works for you, that's fabulous. I just find for me that putting any kind of anything under there that's going to draw attention just isn't the best choice. Now the shadow is done, the lining is done, the mascara is done. This is when I go back in and do just the finished detail work on my brows. Because sometimes when I'm doing my foundation and powders and bronzers and that sort of thing, the brow can get roughed up a little bit and I lose some of the definition. So I leave that to the very end. What I use for this is my Shady Slim Brow Pencil from LA Girl. These are so affordable and so good. The reason I use this pencil is because of that tiny, tiny tip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and just make sure that that bottom edge of my brow is really defined, and then I'm going to pull that brow out, that tail out, almost in a horizontal way, as straight as I can do it without it looking weird, because I want that eye to open up, not get closed down like it is on this side. So I'm going to pull that tail out just as far as I think it looks appropriate. Clean up that bottom edge and then take my spoolie again and make sure everything's nice and blended in. And then for the final touch on my brows, I'm going to go in with the Maybelline Brow Fast Sculpt. This is kind of new to me. I didn't like it when I first used it. I love it now, and I'll tell you why I love it. I learned how to use it. I use it at the very end of my brows because it adds just a little bit of color, and by golly, it sets my brows down and they do not move. It has a tiny little spoolie inside, and on one side are longer bristles, on the other side are the shorter bristles. So I'm just going to take that through my brow. It's going to add a little bit of color and really set those brows in place. So there we have the finished eye, how I do my makeup now, and we can contrast and compare to how I used to do my makeup. For me, it definitely looks like this side is more open, more lifted, and just more flattering for my very mature lids. Some of the standout changes are the shape of the brow. You can see that I now pull my brow almost straight out. I used to bring it almost straight down. The blending on this eye is a little bit more complete, and we have more of a transition up into the brow area. This is a little heavier because that eyeshadow is coming down outside of that axis between the corner of my eye and the end of my brow. I think it looks heavier on this side, more lifted on this side. I've tight lined this side, used mascara base and a lengthening mascara, and I've added eyeliner on this eye and smudged it out with that tiny angled brush. I've left off any mascara or liner on this side. Of course, I have it on this side. I think this looks dreadful. Not only does it make my eye look heavier and more drawn down, but it really does create a focus to that crinkly, wrinkly area underneath my eye. Over here, you almost overlook the under eye area because all the emphasis is on the upper eye. There we have my step-by-step eye makeup tutorial for us over 50 and over 60 gals with less than perfect lids. I hope that you enjoyed this. I had such a good time putting it together. I've been thinking about it for a long time. If you found it useful and helpful, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. If you're new here, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if you're interested in more makeup, skincare, and style for the more mature woman, stop by prettyover50.com. There's a lot more great information just waiting for you there. You guys know it just tickles me when you take a few minutes out of your day to spend it with me. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Again, I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, where we talk everything makeup, skincare, and style for the over 50 woman. Make it a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.